Yo, welcome back to the Ben Barker Fitness Podcast. Huge shout out to all of those who have been listening and sharing. I would appreciate it if you would leave a review, subscribe to the show, and share this with someone you think it might be an encouragement to. I am super excited to have Jeff Shirrell with us today. He is the founder of Your Story to Glory and is passionate about helping men find purpose. Jeff, what's up?
Yo, how you doing, Ben? This is great. I'm surprised they're not running down the street and then coming in and it's like, let's go.
Right. And I even have a shirt on, which is even more out of character for me.
It must be chilly there today.
Yeah, that's what it is. Jeff, you are a husband and a father of three. I always like to start out the show, like, what do you do for your fitness? Like you feel like it's important for your kids to see you do that. Do they take part? Tell me a little bit about that.
You got it. So I always measure what I do for my fitness by how old my daughter is, because the month before she was born, I started doing CrossFit. I was like, okay,
let's go.
Yeah, we had just moved and there was a brand new CrossFit box that opened up and I'm like, it's time to begin. And it's like, right before your second kid, like, why not start the most extreme fitness program there is. So started doing that 12 years ago. But also knew that, hey, we have a newborn. And so my mom was like, my birthday was last month. And so my mom's like, what do you want for your birthday? I go, how about a weight rack? She's like, what's that? And I go, just, here, buy this. I sent her the link. So I got a rack and, my first barbell and just started like accumulating weights after that. So CrossFit is my baseline. But as we get older, right, it's like, oh, I stretch probably longer than I actually do. Stretch and warm up than I actually do CrossFit. So.
Hey, and that's okay, man. Mobility is important. And so I've seen on your Instagram, you have a pretty good setup in your garage, right?
Thank you. It works for me. So.
I mean, it doesn't take a lot. I feel like everybody wants the really cool, jaw-dropping, garage gym. And I just recently have a pretty sweet setup through accumulation. But initially, man, I had a 45-pound barbell and 2 bumper plates. And that was it. And I got it done with that for 4 years.
Yep. Well, and that's what they say in the CrossFit community. What are the 3 things you need, right? Like a pull-up bar, a set of barbells, and then jump rope.
Yep. No, you don't need a lot. And then to all of you other dads out there who are just getting started, especially if you're deconditioned, you can get it done with no equipment. Mm-hmm. Like push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and walking. Or, there's a lot to say about those.
Dude, and some of the most devastating workouts at CrossFit, it's like, oh, okay, that's not so bad. Some wall climbs and this isn't so bad. Then halfway through, you're like, kill me now. I'm done with this.
I got to throw that out there because that's not an exercise. I don't think the average person knows what a wall walk is. And if you watch someone do it, you're like, oh yeah, that's simple enough. Mm-hmm. Listen to me. 5 reps is a lot.
Yeah. Let's just do this. Just do burpees and then put a 5-minute timer on. Let me know when it becomes eternity.
Right. And to shoot you straight, Jeff, I think I would prefer to do burpees over wall walks.
That is true. Oh my goodness. I never thought of that.
Right. And so guys, there is beauty in simplicity and a lot to say about that. So while we're on the fitness topic, and I may have misread, and I love that we didn't even talk about this before the show. So, get a very organic answer. Take the Mountain Challenge.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So that's a Christian men's weekend, or just a men's weekend in general with a lot of Christian values. And it's up in, what's beautiful about it is, it's just really raw. There was 4 or 5 guys, and they just were like, you know what? We go to a lot of leadership conferences. We love this stuff, and we should create something for men to kind of go up and just, especially if they're having a tough time. And they say, leave it on the mountain. Like, what's going on with you where you're going up to the mountain? We'll, kind of sit down and really unpack some big topics, have some great discussion, put them through some physical challenges, right? And, because as men, you want to break down themselves physically, right, as well. And, of course, then that can break down some things emotionally or some walls that you put up and create a safe space for guys to kind of really sit there and talk about the things that are really important. So it was really it's been an amazing weekend. This is the 4th time that they just did it. And what's really neat is it's really raw. It's very affordable. I say it's probably one of the best ROIs for guys. It's like $200, $250 for a full weekend. I mean, you could just, that just covers your meals basically on an average weekend. And so you go up there and we really hit all the key topics for men, right? It's, faith, it's health, it's, your relationship with your wife, right? Or your spouse. And then as well as how you are as a father. and some other key things as well. We always kind of throw in whoever the speakers are. Like for me, I did one on forgiveness this year, which was really powerful. So one of the cool things, I will say this, and anybody can use this for their weekends. We begin the weekend with a silent hike, and we have some prompting questions, but you're hiking through the woods silently. And for most guys, to be quiet with their thoughts, and they get away from the world, or their world, it becomes very interesting, very profound way to start a weekend. So, and it's just raw. It's just it's not polished. There's a lot of kind of downtime or white space, which is really kind of where I think things and the lessons continue to or really enrich. So it's very cool.
Man, there's a lot to be said about being alone with your thoughts. And, I read something recently, a guy tweeted and it blew up, but he was talking about, if you work out sometime and put your headphones in, but don't listen to a podcast and don't listen to music, and just, it can be a meditative type experience. And then if you are faith-based, like us, I think sometimes we never give God time to speak. We just tell him we just ask him for things like he's a genie, but we never sit there and listen, which I think is huge.
Yeah. And just think what he wants to tell you. Probably something good that you've been wrestling with, or wrestling away.
Yeah, man, that sounds like an awesome challenge. And I don't think men typically also get with other men and have deep conversations.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in Chicago, and the joke is always like, how about them Bears?
Yes.
And, and so whenever there's like an awkward pause, you just say, how about them Bears? And we start talking about sports, right? Because it's an easy cop out.
I'm from South Bend, Indiana.
Let's go.
So that's exactly right. That's the example I use. It's like, guys, as soon as it gets quiet, like they went to, how's the weather? How about the Cubs? And it's like, because, when you get in a conversation, you're like, yeah, man, my wife and I got in a fight. Oh, okay. Yeah. You want a beer? It's like, and it's like, okay, obviously we're not having this conversation with you. So, but we have a men's group out here called Iron Sharpens Iron. And I pull in Saturday mornings, and it's for men only. And they break into these small groups after the message. And these guys, I mean, the things they share, it's like their only safe space. And it's so many times it's been decades where they never shared it, or this is coming up and they have this safe space, and it's really a pretty raw group. And now I pull in, and then there's 150 guys there, and I'm like, where's my parking spot? Come on, right? It's like I barely got out of the house before the kids woke up. So, but yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. This is something that is very important for men to bring up and talk about.
When I was checking out your website, Your Story to Glory, is it .com?
Yes.
.com. I was encouraged by your pillars, because what I talk about a lot is faith, family, fitness, finances, and freedom. And, your mission statement, I guess, is to help men find fulfillment through faith, relationships, health, and purpose.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
And man, I align with those so much. And we were talking a lot about purpose before we started recording. And, I think it's like an epidemic that a lot of men are kind of like lost in like, what's their purpose and, finding it. And that's probably why, suicide rates are high and things like that. So like, how do you show men and teach them how to find purpose?
That's great. Teach them how to find it. This is great because my wife and I have conversations about that. She has her own podcast. She helps lead a community of women for Christian. It's called Live Bold Movement for Christian Women. And is it finding your purpose, or is it discovering your purpose?
Yeah,
what's already been put inside of you.
Cool.
So I went on this journey 8 or 9 years ago, and you will understand this. Chicago, it's -20 a bunch, right? And I'm from South Bend, but -20 is a little bit more vicious. And it's like I get all the kids bundled up. It's January. It's just so cold, and it's like we're just trying to get out of the house, right? My wife's like looking at me. She's like, "I'm gonna snap again." I'm like, "I got it. Let's go. Come on, let's go." 20 minutes of getting all the clothes on. All right, we have to untake them because someone's got to pee now, and now we got to get back on. Like, let's go outside. Come on. I'm like, I got to shovel this driveway before the next 10 inches of snow come in. Open the garage door. Boom, the polar vortex just hits him. And I'm a pretty tough guy, thanks to growing up in South Bend and being a Purdue fan in Notre Dame country. Obnoxious. And so I was just like, wow, this is vicious. And the kids start crying. They run back in. and I, take this on. I'm just like, this is a waste of time. And I'm sitting there, I turn around and I have this 5-bedroom house, beautiful wife and two healthy kids. And I'm like, my life is falling apart. Like, I'm like, it looks fantastic on the outside, but from the inside, it is, imploding. And it's like, I'm like, I went to school, I got the degree, I got the good job. I worked for like a top bank, and I'm like, I did everything right and everything's going wrong. I'm like, what the heck is the problem? And that was kind of the thing, is one of the aspects was, I wasn't doing what I was made to do. And I started to ask that question. I'm like, I was so successful in college. Like, I was in leadership. I was leading organizations. We were growing our organization significantly. And I had so much fun, like 24/7. Like, that's when I always say, you're on purpose when like time disappears. You can barely go to sleep because the ideas are coming. Or when you get up in the morning, you are fired up. Like, who doesn't want to live that way, right? And so I started to ask myself, I did everything right, but everything's going wrong. I'm like, what's the problem? Because I'm like, I feel like life should be lived with like this vigor and this desire and drive and this purpose and this fulfillment. And man, I am grinding. I'm like, I can grind, being from South Bend, growing up in a tool and die shop. But man, I was like, this just seems like a waste. And so that's when I went on that journey. And I started listening to podcasts. So, I get to be on one now. This is a dream. Thank you very much. Yeah. And so, it's like I've been studying and reading books back in the day on self-improvement. And then we had kids and I got the job. And it was like, I need to get into something. So listen to podcasts. And I started listening to Lewis Howes and the School of Greatness, one of the best original podcasts out there. And I started to ask that question, dig into it. And eventually, after quite a while, came up with the fulfillment formula. So now a formula, I'm like, I had to figure out for myself, right, what that looks like. And here's to the guy, like, I've been there where nothing sounds good. Like, what are you passionate about? I don't know. Like, what do you like? Nothing right now. Like, everything is a disaster. The one thing I will say that I realized that did help was fitness, right? Because when you work out, like, afterwards you get done, you're just like, okay, I feel good. Like, I feel like I can take on the world again. Like, I've just, washed away all my, problems and issues. And as we know, there's that neurological testosterone dump, and you're just like, yeah, let's go. I'm going to crush through this wall like the Kool-Aid man. But it was over that time and doing the self-discovery, there's a formula for fulfillment. And I'm like, okay, this sounds right. And divinely timed enough, I had the opportunity to then be at Lewis's house, second site on his book tour. And he was like taking questions from the audience. And we're standing in a lobby. And I'm very good with my timing and questions and such. And I noticed like he was finishing up a question, and I just shot my hand up because I'm like, like my wife and I have this deal. Like, if you go to someone's event, you have to ask a question.
Yeah. And
so he's starting to finish up, and I shoot my hand up, and he's like, any questions? My hand was already up, and he's like, you. And I go, I feel like when it comes to purpose and fulfillment, it's a matter of a few things. I'm just interested in what you would say, because because I went to you first, bro. And I feel like it's, what are your gifts that you've been given, your talents? What are your passions? How can you use that in service to others and then monetize it? And he goes, oh, absolutely. He goes, yeah, that's exactly right there. And it's like that service. And I was like, and a buddy of mine that was sitting next to me got it on film. And I was like, that's cool. All right, good. I'm good. Let's go. The fulfillment formula is now official. So it's kind of an interesting story. So that's what I would say for guys. That's the formula. But what does that mean for you? Now you go on that deeper, right, discovery journey for understanding and putting those pieces together. And then it's time to get to work.
First of all, that was great. And I know, like the thing that's misquoted, like it's a verse from the Bible, like is money the root of all evil? Is that a Bible verse, or it's not a Bible verse?
No, it is. The nuance, and I learned about this too as well, because I used to think the same thing, right? Which is vicious. Yeah. And the devil will do that. He will take the scripture, and he did that to Jesus in the second temptation. He took scripture and just twisted it just a little. And he goes, it's not that money is the root of all evil.
The love of money.
Well, the love of money is a root, right?
Yeah.
Like for some guys, like, let's be honest, guys, how many are women? How many is it that women are the root of your evil? How many is it that a car or cars or boats or sports teams like the Bears? Good Lord. Like, can we move on from the Bears? So yeah, just think about it. Or fitness, I mean, let's be honest. Like you see people out there like, dang, you're jacked. Like, there's some other stuff you probably should be doing too.
Yep. But to your credit with where I was going with that is it's like how you use it, like serving others. I
Yes.
saw another quote recently, not a Bible verse, but it was like, if you think money is the problem, you haven't given enough away.
Ooh.
And I
Ooh,
think
yeah.
it's like, money does bring happiness, I think, when you're serving others with it.
There's more. The giver gets more than the receiver.
100%.
Yeah, it's neurologically
And
proven.
yeah, and then, and the Bible talks about finances a lot, and, we know about the guys with the talents, and they didn't multiply theirs. And so I think there's a lot to be said with that. And I think, men are supposed to excel. And I think the more money that I make, the more people that I can help.
That's right. There's a great podcast, and this guy, has his finger on the pulse. It was by Chris Harder, who's a great mindset coach and business coach, and his podcast used to be called, now I'm forgetting it, but it was all about. His tagline was, "When good people make good money, they do great things," and so therefore, I think they said this before. Just to reiterate your point. Money is just, what is it? Money is just an example of what's going on inside of you, or money just shows you what's really going on inside of you. So where's your money going, and what's it being used for? And is that good, or is that not good?
Yeah, that's great, dude. Mm-hmm. What do you teach? So as far as like your story to glory, this is obviously I'm a fitness first guy, right? Yeah. Obviously my eyes immediately go to the health pillar.
Yeah.
Like on the very most basic level, like if you have a dad who could be doing better, is doing nothing for their physical health, like where do you direct guys in that regard?
With regard to health?
Yeah. Like where do you start them? Somebody who's doing nothing for their health.
I would instantly want to go and understand why, right? Because the why and the purpose, because let's think about it, guys. I mean, like we know that we feel amazing when you can walk around with your shirt off, when you have that bravado, you have that kind of that macho-ness. Well, you got to be careful, but you have that macho-ness, you feel good. And that's what you want as a guy. That's the way you were designed. That's masculinity. John Eldredge talks about this great in his book, Wild at Heart. Just as kids, kids are wrestling. They like to be physical. We're made to be physical beings, some more than others. I have a twin brother. He will be physical all day long. I'm like, I will be intellectual. And it's like, and I do not like being physical because you're much bigger than me, Jason. So stop beating up on me. I'll tell mom. But guys, it's part of the bravado, and it's just part of nature, right? Because the female gets attracted by that. So I'd want to understand why. What are they telling themselves, or better yet, what has somebody ever told them? What did somebody tell you or drill into you that you believe that you aren't going to be good enough, that you're weak, that you can't be strong, that you'll never amount to anything? And so we got to get to that root first and clean that up for them to build up and then build out who they are. And then the other thing too is that, it's just false narratives that have been just drilled into us, right? Get to the gym and get on the cardio or get on the treadmill. Oh my goodness. Can we please stop with that? I mean, like if you like running, great. Like for me, people are like, oh, you look like a runner. And I'm like, I hate running because that was the punishment for baseball.
Yep.
Shirrell, you booted another one. Fence. And it's like, I hate running. And so it's like for guys, like I always say, what do you actually like to do? Well, I like pickleball. Okay, do pickleball. I like basketball. Do basketball. Like, well, I feel like I have to go to the gym and run for 45 minutes like a hamster on a treadmill. No, stop it. Do you like, here's the other thing too. Answer this, guys. Do you like lifting weights? Well, yeah, that happens so many times. Like, then lift some weights, bro. It's the best thing you can actually do. Well, maybe stretching and warm up would be good too, but lift the weights, because as you know, and you've talked about a ton, that's where all the good juice comes from. And there's so much return on investment there, gentlemen.
Man, I think I love your perspective. That's what's fun about, like in a group of friends and stuff, I always talk about, they say like the 5 people closest to you are the level that you're going to either rise to or stoop to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's what's so cool about the podcast is getting different perspectives. Because like for me, when I think about a guy who's not working out, I'm just like, man up, do it. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't look at the reason why, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is important. And I think too, as a friend, when we're trying to build somebody up, that's an important question for us to be able to ask them.
Yep.
And then just like like looking in at ourselves, that's an
Mm-hmm.
important question as well.
Well, and
Man.
two, I have a twin brother. This is perfect. You probably would resonate more with him. He's the football coach. And Brendan, you know who Brendan Burchard is?
Yeah.
Okay, so Brendan Burchard at his events does this. He's like, I do this at every event. I ask the crowd, who's more motivated by the carrot? Half the crowd would put their hand up. Who's more motivated by the stick? The other half. He goes, it's always half and half. What's your motivation? The encouragement or the kind of that threat or that macho ness, right? So he's like, once you understand that about a person, and for your clients, then okay, now let's emphasize this. So for me, one of my gifts is encouragement. And I get more motivated by encouragement. Lewis Howes is more motivated by encouragement. Trent Shelton by encouragement. Like they hated those football coaches, right? But some guys, that's it. So it's like, and as a guy, I kind of always need that too. It's like, come on, I'm like, bro, I know you can do this. I know you're better than that. And it's right. The calling out to call up and call forth their best self as a coach. That's what you're doing anyways. You're creating that next level that you can see that maybe they can't see. And what way you're gonna do that? You're gonna just be like, you can do this. Let's go now. Or we're gonna be running fences, Shirrell. Or is it like, bro, I know you can do this. Like, get the ball. Like, you got it. You got a great throw. And it's like, okay. Stop thinking so much. Or I'm gonna get the garter belt for you.
Jeff, in your pillars from your story to glory, I'm just looking down, man. I just wrote some quick notes, and guys, I'm very unprofessional. This is like from like Dollar Tree, little notepad.
Oh man, that's fancy. Is that a plastic?
Thank you. I think it was $3 for $1, if I remember right.
Oh, you got the deal.
Yeah, man. But I got to throw this out there. One, like we were talking before the podcast, and I was just like, Jeff, I'm very unprofessional. But I started with next to nothing, and I think it goes the same with like any of the pillars that Jeff is talking about: faith, relationships, health, and purpose. I think everybody like researches and you want like the perfect plan and you want to be prepared in order to start. But you can start all 4 of those things with nothing. You can start working on your health with nothing. Like you don't have to, if you want to improve your relationship with your wife, you don't need anything other than treating her right,
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
which is cool. That wasn't not the point of this question, but my question is relationships.
Mm-hmm.
The word relationship, is that a blanket statement? Is it in regards like
Mm-hmm.
to your relationship with your wife, friendship, both?
It's definitely blanket because that can be different for everybody, right? I had a
Yep.
client meeting this week, and he was like, relationships with my wife is a 10, with my kids is a 10. I'm just like, dang, dude, what are you doing? Like, maybe I should sit down and talk to you for a little bit.
Right.
But it's a relationship with himself and his purpose. That was not right, or it's a relationship maybe with a parent, or a brother, or a colleague, or a close friend. So what is that? So what is that as far as relationships goes, and which one is in the way or not so good?
Man, and I think it's what's cool that it is a blanket statement is that most of us maybe are a 10 in some areas. And I see a lot of guys who have great relationships with their friends, or well, in a world's point of view, perhaps, and then a bad relationship with their wife. And it's like they hide from their relationship with their wife by like going to golf for 4 hours with the boys.
Yeah.
But I will say this. So I'm one of the guys who has, and it's not bragging, I'm just blessed. I have a great relationship with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll hide behind that sometimes. And I realized a couple of years ago that like I just didn't want to hang out with dudes because I didn't need to. I wanted to spend all of my time with my wife. But I think there's also a need for men to be with other men who are building them up.
Correct.
Yeah.
What would make you say that?
Man, I noticed. So like I made it a point this year that I was like, men's small group was a hassle for me at church.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's on Tuesday nights. It's incredibly inconvenient for me. It's like I've got kids sports and stuff like that. But I just noticed like that when I would go, I was growing more like in my walk with God because I was around dudes who were serious about it, who were making time. And even for those of you who maybe currently aren't a believer, like it's with anything, if you don't put time into it, you're not going to improve. And so when I made it a priority, I just noticed the benefit. And then I also made friends just on like the very most basic level. Like it's nice to have guys that you can call at any point in time that you would trust with your family that would help you.
Yeah, you think so? At any point in time, you find out who your friends are, right?
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And man, and you just find like quality men. And like you said, like there's a reason that your group is called Iron Sharpen Iron, because
Mm-hmm.
it does.
Yeah. Proverbs 27:17 is iron, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. So you've done these things, you developed some of these new relationships. What has your wife noticed about that and about you or your kids?
Yep. So, and I think for me, it's showing them that it's important. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the example is probably the biggest thing that is done for our family, because they know on Tuesday nights, that's where I'm going
Mm-hmm.
and that I've made it a priority. And I think it's like one thing when you're a kid, I think dads, especially like the 90s and like sitcoms, it was the big thing was do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, weak.
That was very weak.
Yeah.
And so I've put myself in a position now where I'm just like, hey, you guys should read your Bible, but they never see me do it. Now they
Mm-hmm.
see me living it out. And I think that's been a big part, and it gives more weight behind when I say it's important.
Right, because a leader is going to lead from the front, and there's integrity with
Yep.
your words and your actions. I can feel my wife looking over my shoulder right now as I say that. Oh man, she's the first one. But then again, right? Woman means helpmate,
Yep.
and there's a Hebrew definition for that first woman. It was basically translates to beneficial adversary. So
Yeah.
they're helping you, and then as well, when you went to, so they're helping you become better. They're seeing you become better, right? And then your kids are seeing you, and are they making? What are they seeing? Is that are they calling you out and sting a little bit? Hey, embrace that. And then when you've gone to those groups and come back, do you feel like you're a more enriched man, a better man that's now coming back to nurture that 10 out of 10 relationship with your wife and kids?
100%.
Is that
And
important to you?
yeah, and it always pays off.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed it necessarily has not become easier for me to go. It's typically always a sacrifice, you know? And I think that says something as well. I think, working out typically for a lot of people is not always going to be, you're not always gonna be like, oh man, I'm a stud. I've been working out. This is great. It's sometimes I've been doing this for working out consistently for like 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's still a struggle,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
that's
yeah.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, men are supposed to put themselves in situations, like just like working out, it takes resistance to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And, it takes resistance for your marriage to grow, for your faith to grow, for your finances to grow.
Well, yeah, in obedience and discipline, right? Even when you don't feel like doing it, or it's like, I do not want to do my taxes. I do not want to do this. I don't want to shower every day.
Yep.
But if I want my wife to get close to me, I have to.
Yeah. 100%. And that's even one of those things. It's like one of those like corny sayings. But like I was telling my kids the other day, this year I wanted to be more diligent. Like last year, I kind of just threw them in soccer. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
improve a whole lot because I wanted the coach to do all of the work. And I was very busy because I still had a 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And like this year, I just made the commitment that we were going to practice one extra day per week, like me and the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't enjoy it. But the other day I was like, this is that when you have to flip that switch, guys, from like, I have to do this to I get to do this.
Oh, that's
I
good.
was like, I'm not going to be here forever. And like one day you're going to remember that your dad, spent 2 hours of his time just to be with you. And I was like, this is special. And we're not always going to have this. And so, and I think it's the same thing with anything else, like tough conversations with your spouse. It's like, you don't have to have those conversations. Like you get to.
Yeah.
And if your wife gets hit by a car and she's no longer there, you'd do anything to go back
Yeah.
and have those tough conversations.
Well, yeah, that too. And there are things that you're going to have to do or you need to do, and the discipline to do them for the greater good.
Yes.
Right? Like eating the right things, not drinking too much, not letting those urges and those desires and those feelings turn into hateful action, being self-controlled, or hey, someone's going to need to sit down and do the adult stuff and help you guys understand what that looks like, teach you responsibility. Because if I don't, who's going to do it?
Mic drop.
There you go. Yeah, that's a real truth, right? And for some people,
Yeah.
it's a hard truth. That's sometimes it's a
Jeff,
hard truth.
in the most concise, like short Cliff Notes version and everything that you stand for with your story to glory,
Mm-hmm.
like if you had like 2 to 3, 4 or 5 things that men should do, you feel like on a regular basis to like improve their marriage, their walk with God, their health, what are those few things? And you can just spitball, man, because I know I didn't prepare you for this.
No, that's all right. I would say the 2 to 3 pillar things to do. Just with the greatest commands: love the Lord your God. Right? Pray, understand, get in the Word, because as a dad, there's a lot of storms going on out there, and you're going to need something greater than yourself to get you through them, and you're going to need something else to help you through them. If you're saying "I" too much, that's a problem. So give that up. You can only do so much. 2, love your wife. Understand who she is. Sacrifice the things that you want for her greater good. And if don't think that doing the dishes for her or doing that chore for her or doing that little favor for her isn't going to get repaid back big time. It might be a while too, especially if you've dug yourself a nice hole. And then 3, love your kids. Jordan Peterson, there's a clip that's going around on social media that talks about all your kids want to do is hang out with you. And there are so many clients that I talked to, including one yesterday, whose dad just didn't pay attention to him. And that has really crushed him and has been something that has plagued him his whole life. And not only that, his wife too. She had a mother and a father that were not good to her. And she views the world as the world does not like me and have to be a certain way. And it's like, no,
Yep.
you were loved. You were loved. And I was like, and you as a man, I was like, your job is to love her the way that they were supposed to. So love your wife, treat your kids well, show them the world. Be protective, but don't be overly protective, because
Yep.
if they're in a bubble, that bubble is going to get popped sometime. And be the one that teaches them and shows them that it's okay. And being in the Word is going to be that way to do it. It's going to give them the strength, because your job is to send them to their cross,
Yep.
whatever that looks like in this world. And they'll be strong enough and resilient enough, and they'll have a strong foundation, a mom and dad to come home to on the tough days. And then you pat their back, get them, a good meal, wipe off the sweat, cut the eyebrow, send them back out in the fight.
That was so good, Jeff. I gotta follow up with that with 2 things real quick. One, I love the saying I've seen a lot lately, where it's like you have to let your kids do somewhat dangerous things in controlled settings.
Yes. Yeah.
It's, I broke my arm like 3 times when I was a kid, because my dad gave me the freedom to be a boy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you grow because of that. And it's like you eventually learn I shouldn't jump off my bunk bed. I learned.
Or use a better way, or get more pillows down there. Come on now.
Exactly. And then number 2, what really changed me as a father was when I read that kids don't understand like anxiety and stress at a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't say, "Dad, I'm struggling."
Mm-hmm.
They say, "Dad, play with me." And that's where that flipped a switch for me. Like my daughter doesn't know how to say, exactly, kid, like I had a rough day at school.
Mm-hmm.
She just wants me to play with her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, man, spending time with your kids and it's not always fun at the time, to be honest.
You might want to be doing something else. You might be tired.
Yeah. When my son wants me to play Lego, I do not love Lego, but it's a game changer for him. And like those 30 minutes make his day. Yeah. And so guys, man, spend time with your kids.
Yeah. And when you're doing that, that can be a great time to do this additional powerful skill. Teach them words that describe their emotions so that they know how to talk about their emotions. That's where a lot of people get stuck as life goes on. They don't know how to talk. They don't know the words, and it comes out in a different way and usually not healthy.
Yeah. Jeff, this was awesome, dude. Tell me, where is the best place for people to find you? I feel like you have an important message for men and fathers. Where is the best place for them to find more about you, like resources, all of that?
Yep. You can go to yourstorytoglory.com. The website, we are doing a revamp to get it cleaned up and get it more professional. And then as well as you can go to Jeff Shirrell or Your Story to Glory on Instagram. those are the two best platforms. I will be starting a YouTube channel in the future. And then for those, if anybody's in Arizona, or Phoenix, I definitely encourage you to come to Iron Sharpens Iron. It's a men's group. It is transformative. There's a chapter in Scottsdale and there's a chapter in Northwest Phoenix. I'm there every week. And for many men, this is their church. It's the number one priority for them. So, because it's that powerful and that much needed.
Y'all, find Jeff Shirrell on Instagram. Check out yourstorytoglory.com. Give this guy a follow. He's got an important message that I think can help you level up in your faith as a father and as a husband. And y'all, if you need workout help, I'm your guy. Check out a free 7-day trial to my workout program. It'll be in the show notes. And I'll also put a link to Jeff's website as well. Jeff, thanks so much for joining today, dude. I appreciate you.
Thank you. This is amazing.